Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is ready for the world tour of subscriber Dogman submissions. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch displayed directly under this video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's take this world tour, country by country. Shall we? Today's first world subscriber submission. Hello, Jeffrey. How are you? This happened with good friends of my dad, husband and wife, back in 2009. Once a year, the government of Mexico has a registration program for foreign vehicles to make it legit to drive in Mexico. So this program was going to take place by a lake about 45 minutes from town. By the lake because hundreds of people go, so this way, all this traffic would not affect the town. And they wanted to make their truck legit. So they packed a lunch for a long day, and they spent all day by the lake, and they got their truck paperwork fixed. So on the way back to their home, it was already dark when they reached a curve called Federal Curve. Called like that because a federal agent died in a car accident on this road. This curve is famous because many people have died in car accidents on this curve. Right by the curve crossing, from right to left, they saw a creature. In their words, "Halambre Lobo." They had to slow down because this thing was taking its time to cross. Now, this thing did not turn its head to face them. They notice a really long snout, huge head, long ears like a Labrador. Also, exaggeratingly long forearms, all body covered in gray fur, massive shoulders. It was on its hind legs, the legs were bent backwards like a dog, and jogging in a peculiar way, not pumping its arms like a person, but keeping the arms steady like a 45-degree angle position. And the weird part of it all was it was wearing some kind of shorts or a cloth. Standing over 2 meters tall, it kept its way into the brush at the other side of the road. When they told my dad, they were afraid of being ridiculed. I listen to your channel pretty much every day at work or driving. Here is something that happened with my dad and my brother in Mexico between 93 and 94. We used to live in my grandfather's land, and my dad decided it was time to move because our family was growing and more privacy. My dad wanted to build his own shop and start a business fabricating, a little bit of history. We moved there about 30 minutes far from my grandfather's house and my school, so the house that my dad built was like the third one in a total new neighborhood. We had like 3 neighbors, but far away, about a mile away. One day, I don't remember exactly what day, but my brother was in the house with my dad building in his shop, my brother watching TV. Now, we just had one big room that my mom divided with a curtain. You could see through it into the second room for me and my brother. 2 doors, one that takes you to the front and another one, the back, taking you to the backyard with no fence around the house. So, my brother is watching TV, then he decides to check on my dad, then went back inside. I was in school that day. My brother said he saw me. That's what he thought was looking through the curtain. He called my name. "Hey, Francisco." You came back from school, and he was getting no response from what he thought was me, so he kept calling my name. And he said this thing was wearing my clothes and digging in the drawer, making a mess. My brother said he opened the curtain, and just 5 feet away, this thing turned to look at him, then turns back and keeps messing with my clothes. He said the skin was like a reptile, yellow eyes, with pupils like a snake, about my height, 4'5". He got scared and go out of the house to tell my dad something was in the house. Of course, my dad did not believe, and told him to go back in the house. It's your imagination. My brother went back inside, and he said that the thing was still there, and ran again with my dad and told him. My dad got mad at him and went to check the side of the house. He saw this reptile thing wearing my red shirt and shorts, and my dad got out, went to the car to get his gun, but when he came back, the creature was not there. This happened in a small town in Nuevo Leon, Mexico. Never saw it again until 2010, when my dad was driving to a party on a dark road. He saw the creature crossing the road with similar features but pale color. He didn't see the eyes, but said it was about 4 feet, really skinny, no clothes, no human features. My dad said that it didn't have any sexual organs. He stopped the truck and saw the thing, stopped before crossing the fence to the orange trees field. My dad said the thing was trying to camouflage into the brush. He said I was thinking in getting out of the truck to get a better look, even though I was only 6 feet away. Then also thought, what if the dad or mom of this thing was on the other side of that fence and I don't have my pistol with me? Then my dad decided to leave and keep his way to the party. He did not take any pictures or anything. My dad had his first cell phone in like 2013. My brother calls it the Lizard Kid. Not sure if the second encounter is the same creature. Forgot to mention, my dad also said the last one had claws and some kind of spikes coming out of its spine. My cousin saw a similar thing a couple months after my dad's sighting, but he said this one was jumping. I need to get in contact with him and ask him about this. Sorry about my grammar. I'm still learning English. I have a bunch of weird stories. My old town is a magnet of weird. One of my friends in 2004 woke up and went outside to go to the bathroom in Mexico. Don't know why, but they make their bathrooms outside. Anyway, my friend saw George, his words. It was like a big roach standing, holding and eating a cat. He made the report to the police, and some people in white suits showed up and took what was left of the cat. Some people made fun of him, but the neighbors close to his house, me and my family, saw the commotion and the police and the people in white. I believe him. My buddy was scared after that, and he refused to go out after dark. Today's second worldwide subscriber submission. We are going all the way to Africa for this one. Dear Jeff, thank you for your YouTube channel. I would like to relate to you a few experiences with what is possibly Dogman. For me, I think these experiences as sacred. I call them wolf people or man-wolf. I have shared one experience with another researcher, and I think it would be a positive side if I share them with you. All of these experiences occurred in southern Africa. Let me start at the beginning. We lived in a small mining town, and the area was semi-wild at the stage. Our family home had a large garden, and it was filled densely with thick bush and trees. My family, although South African, still believed in fairies and sacred plants, as one would if your ancestors came from Europe hundreds of years ago. As a result, we had hawthorns and oak trees and various plants that were meant to protect you from bad energies. Anyway, one night when I was 5, I heard and saw a wolf man in my mind. He called me in my mind. He told me that I needed to leave the house and walk slowly around the entire perimeter of this huge, scary garden. It was very late at night, and I remember having trouble reaching the door handle on the back door because I was very tiny as a child, and then once successful, being able to sneak out. He told me that they were there to test me. He said that if I could walk around by myself slowly and not panic and run screaming, it would mean that I had a warrior spirit. I know this sounds nuts. Anyways, I started the slow walk in the pitch dark by myself and reached the area where the oak trees grew. I could sense a group of wolf people standing there watching me. When I recall this, I see a very large, pitch-black, long-furred wolfman standing in front of the others. Maybe there were 3 or 4 behind him. They seemed to be watching me very carefully. His eyes glowed. I managed not to scream and run even though I wanted to, and I made my way all the way back to my kitchen door. I knew I was being followed and watched, and even if I ran the last few feet back to the door, it would mean I failed the test. My heart was beating so fast and I was shaking with fear, but I felt like I had passed the test. Now in South Africa, it's a very dangerous country. We have a very high crime rate. As a woman, you need to be on constant guard against being attacked. One day, when I was 26 or so, I am 49 now, could not find my cat. I was living in a suburban area and went out into the street to look for my cat. It was very early in the morning and the streets were empty. Then this guy was walking up the road, saw me, and suddenly changed directions and started walking toward me rapidly. His body language did not seem to be one of love or light. He reached me and was in my full body space, and this was both threatening and frightening to me, and this part I just find hard to explain. But I turned and felt this immense surge of that wolfman spirit course through me. It was like I was being temporarily overshadowed by the wolfman energy. I turned and snarled and growled at my potential attacker. I bared my teeth like a wild wolfman. I growled a low, slow growl, and I could feel my eyes not be human. That is all I did, growled and snarled and bared my teeth. My potential attacker half screamed, half shouted, his face filled with terror, and he turned and ran away. I shouted, "Hey, come back!" which just made him run even faster. I know it sounds bizarre until the next thing that happened. I was 28 and living in Swaziland on a farm with not the best water system. I came down with odd symptoms that ended up in the hospital in South Africa. They told me I needed an emergency. My appendix needed to be removed immediately. I knew the symptoms were more than just appendicitis, and against my intuition, went along with the surgeon's insistence that I be immediately operated on. It turned out to be typhoid, by the way. This is important because of what had happened. The emergency surgery had to be done late at night. The hospital surgery area was empty except for me on a gurney, waiting to be prepped for surgery. I did not have any pre-meds yet, so I know it was not a drug-induced hallucination. There was no one around. When all of a sudden a giant black wolfman from my childhood was walking up the corridor on his hind legs. Let me describe him. He was around 7 feet tall. He had long, pitch-black fur. He had enormous shoulders and a thin waist and well-built thighs. He had hands, not paws, and his eyes were a magnificent golden yellow. He seemed old, but still fierce. I do not recall his ears being unusual, other than being like a Alsatian's. I could see pink skin, where the fur on his chest was more sparse. He walked up to me on the gurney, and I can say that I was horrified, confused, and my brain was scrambled. He leaned over to me and told me telepathically that I was in the situation I was in because I had not followed my instincts. He said that I had better start following my instincts, or I would be dead in 5 years. He said he would protect me through what was to come, but I had better start listening to my instincts. I rapidly agreed with him, just nodding. He was frightening, stern, and authoritative. He then turned and walked back down the corridor. I was stunned. Why did no one else see him? I decided to think that these encounters as simply deeply embedded archetypes, and that they were reflections of my own inner landscapes born from growing up in a family that believed in fairies and sacred plants, until I found out about Dogman. The thing is, what your listeners describe the Dogman to look like, 7 foot tall, pitch black fur, hands, long snout, yellow eyes, standing on its hind legs, is exactly what my wolfman looks like. Exactly the same. Are they capable of walking 2 dimensions? Have we lost that ability? Are they waiting for us to reawaken our instincts? I firmly believe that there is a guardian element to them. I think of them as guardians of the wild places. I once heard that a wolfman used to fight alongside the ancient queens and kings in Europe against foes. In the old days, queens and kings had to have the ability to talk to their lands. A king and queen needed to be able to work with the land and nature to keep it fertile. If a king or queen did not have that ability, they were dethroned. Is it possible that Wolfman remembers those ancient pacts? Does the Wolfman remember when we protected the lands together? Does Wolfman recognize the ancestors of those ancient kings and queens and follows them? Are they waiting for us to remember to live with nature? These are the questions I often ask myself. Once you have these kind of experiences, your entire reality changes. Thank you for reading this. Kind regards. Today's third worldwide subscriber submission. I guess we're going back to Africa. I live in Tunisia, North Africa, and yes, we do have a big backyard surrounded by a forest. I wouldn't really call it a forest because only street dogs live in it. It's like a very big green area. Also, the area I live in is quite populated, and I've never seen a wolf in our area or heard someone that saw one in our area. So if you suggest that it might have been a wolf who snuck into our house, I disagree because the form I saw was bigger than any wolf I had ever seen in my life. Almost my height, 1.8 meters plus. If it was a wolf, it wouldn't hesitate to attack me. And it can't escape in a blink of an eye, so there is no way it was this animal. Forgot to mention that we do have 2-meter fence surrounding the house. I would like to say it's so close anything that is a mix between a man and wolf is close, but I would describe it more like a big wolf that can stand on 2 legs. Some comment explained that it might have been an alien from another universe. It is so damn cool to think about that some foreign creature decided to visit me twice. But as cool as it is also terrifying, I would like to try to understand it the next time it appears, if it does, but I must be ready. In the first encounter, it did try to get close, but maybe it was scared when I started screaming and my mom came. I don't believe that creature was scared though. Hopefully, when it tried to get closer in a peaceful way. Maybe I do believe in a multiverse, but I hope I never encounter it again. I've never been that terrified in my entire life. Today's fourth worldwide subscriber submission. Hi Jeff, greetings. I am one of your subscribers all the way from the Philippines. Please let my name and email remain anonymous if ever this story gets out there. I have been a fan of cryptids, or have been listening to a lot of stories from all around the world. I also managed to connect similarities with the stories with our local cryptids, but enough of that. This encounter is not mine but my dad's. It happened over 3 years ago, and it happened twice on the same month. Well, to give a description of our area, we do live in a place which is in between an urban and rural community situated across a river, and lots of man-made fish pens, and then there is the woods. I don't know how to explain this in great detail since English is not really my first language. The encounter happened to my dad while he was driving down this road going home. It was late, maybe 11 o'clock at night. It was not necessarily pitch dark, but his was the only car on the road. He happened to see this thing, as he described, dog-like in appearance, but is 3 to 4 times the size. It looks like a wolf, he mentioned, and emphasized on that. There have been no wolves native to our country or area. He said it was grayish-white in color. He was not driving fast in this instance since he was nearing our home. With this, he wanted to run it over with our car, but he said that it was too big to be normal and was afraid it may wreck his car instead, so he slowly followed this creature until it reached the crossing, and it leapt towards the river and disappeared out of sight. I asked him on why he did follow the thing, or was he not afraid. He jokingly said, if he would have managed to catch the thing, this could be worth some fortune. But I know he was joking around. My dad is one not to be scared of this kind of stuff, since he does not believe in the supernatural. Even after he encountered this thing twice on the same road, he is taking, and I am taking every night after work and going out at night. I was not able to share this with any others since I think I purposely tried to block it out and just forgot about it since I am using the same path leading to our home every night, and I always come home late. I do not have the luxury to be in a car when I pass by the area. I only have a motorcycle, and judging from the size of this creature, as mentioned, it can easily run me down if I came across it. That may be the reason I forgot about what my dad has told me. I don't know what it may be, a Dogman, an extremely large dog, a skinwalker, whatever it is, I don't want to run into it. For reference, if my dad says it was big, it was big. We had 3 male German Shepherds and 1 mixed Husky, so if he means 3 or 4 times larger, he means comparing it with our dogs. I don't know if Dogman exists in our area or if it's something else entirely, maybe just an animal, but it scares me now that I remember the story. I just wanted to share this as a heads up to anyone listening in our part of the world where this type of creature do not normally exist. I hope they don't. I will try to ask my dad soon to describe the creature, so maybe I can find out what it was, but I am afraid to ask more detail about this, since I am on that road on a daily basis, and I don't want to be scared while I'm going home. Apologies. If this has been too long, please feel free to edit some words if necessary. English is not our native language. Thank you, Jeff. Today's 5th worldwide subscriber submission. I had a close encounter with 2 of these Dogman, but luckily for us, they were young. In 2012, my parents decided to go on a holiday to Kashmir and asked me to come along, but I declined. A day before they were due to travel, my mother asked me again, and I thought about it for a second and said, yes, okay, I'll come. Recently, I was sacked from work with no reason given, which made me upset. So anyway, I booked my ticket, and it was on the same airline and same flight. We left London and arrived at Islamabad airport, and let me tell you, it was really hot, and I'm not used to this weather. It's been a long time when I last came to my country, and even then I witnessed a craft while we were cruising at high altitude, which came right next to my plane. And I couldn't scream like I wanted to scream so loud, but something held me back, so I watched it come within whatever distance without touching the airplane. I saw every detail, and then it ducked under the airplane, and I instantly knew to run to the other side, which I did, and looked out the window blind, and saw it rise and level out with us again. My brother came and saw it as well. We both watched it, and then it took off at a really high speed. Later, my brother told me he couldn't scream. This craft had moving parts, and the inner bit was stationary, and it was shaped like a diamond and had a glow to it like an electrifying blue color. It was so weird the way it was spinning, and another aid was spinning in a different direction. It was controlled by something or someone. This happened in '92. Anyway, we traveled to our destination. My mom and my family had traveled to Kashmir many times and always stayed at her mother's home. But she told me she didn't want to stay there because of the rules of the house. It's a holiday, and obviously people go out and enjoy themselves and go sightseeing and may come home late at night, so we didn't want any headaches and questions from her mother. So we brought our own place from this very reason, and for many years the home was getting renovated and is almost complete. So we decided to stay in our own place, even though it was a little dusty. We got home and unpacked our things and slept. The next morning we picked up the family dog from my nan's home and brought him to our almost renovated place. We went out and visited many places, but we would always go no matter what. About 2 weeks in, we knew the routine and got milk before we needed to go home, so it would save us time having to go in the morning and whatever else we needed. The home is in the village with not many houses. It's a small village. Our home is built on a massive land, and we have a mud path that leads up to the house. We were coming home, and it's still daylight, but almost evening, and as we turned onto our mud path, which was around 150 to 200 feet to our home, we noticed figures at the end of the path near the house. We kept driving slowly, maybe 5 miles an hour, as it's a narrow mud path and any animal can run out. At this point, we were making jokes and laughing and guessing what they were. We guessed every animal for that region, but as we got closer, it didn't make any sense. Nothing made sense at that moment, and everything went quiet. No laughing, no more jokes to be heard. You could hear a pin drop. My brother spoke and said, "What the F?" I got scared, but I was intrigued to know what they were. And that is when we all realized they were standing on their hind legs. Their arms were twice the size of a man's. As we even got closer, we could make out exactly every feature in detail. Both these creatures were facing directly at us, but their heads slightly facing our left and their right, just slightly. Never have we ever seen anything remotely resembling these creatures. Their heads were like a wolf, but not exactly. Their bodies were that of a human, but certain parts looked like a monkey. The skin was visible and resembled that of a bat, and their hairs were off-white color or cream. They had more hair on their necks and lesser hair everywhere else apart from their tail. The tails were small but bushy. The legs were bent and their feet were big. For their size, even though their hands were too big for their size, and at the end of their fingers they had claws. The eyes were sunken in their face, and we were the color of a sunset. Both had ears that stood straight up. They were both haunched forward a little. We got up to about 30 feet and stopped. None of us spoke apart from my daughter, who was crying and had her eyes closed. We just wanted them to leave so we could get into the house. A minute later or so, they both ran to their right and on 2 feet and jumped into the tall grass. We sat there for a moment collecting our thoughts, and then we drove onto the driveway, quickly went indoors. Oh yeah, both were around 3 feet tall and both looked identical, like they were twins. And they looked like young pups. Even for their size, they were muscular, especially their legs. I do remember I had never heard of any type of cryptid. Heck, I didn't even know the word. Never had I watched or knew about Bigfoot or any other creature. So I had no idea what the heck these things were, apart from trying to identify them to the closest animal we could, and the closest was a werewolf. That night, there was banging and screaming all night, and we made sure all the windows and doors were locked. Eyeshine was seen, red and sunset color. I managed to take a picture when the family dog was attacked, as I heard yelping and running around. And at the time I was taking a picture, I managed to take a picture of the creature's head about 2 feet away from it. The pic is so clear from the front, security light came on too and gave me a good picture. It let the dog go and immediately ran away. Thank God the dog was okay. The next day, we were visited by one American man in a suit and 3 native men in a uniform and asked us what happened and what we said, so we told them everything. And I told them I took a picture of the creature, and it came out perfect with no details. With all the details, excuse me. They demanded the phone and got rude. With me, and I got upset by the way they spoke. I gave them my daughter's phone, and he went through it and asked again, "Where's the phone?" And I said, "This is it," but the pic was on my phone, which was charging. I thought they would easily find it, so I told them it was in the car in the dash, and they proceeded to all go out, ha ha ha, to the car. As soon as they got to the car, I went to my phone and turned it off and put it inside a 25-kilogram rice sack. They came back and started speaking rudely again. I told them the pic had probably been deleted, or it never was taken. They said they would come back if they ever need to. Before we left Kashmir, we could see Army aircrafts going up and down all day and all night at our village. This is my encounter in 2012, and I only found out about Dogman in 2019. Thank you. Second email, "Hey Jeff, sorry, but I forgot to mention a few things which are very important to my views of this. I am born Muslim, and my faith was strong, and we believe in everything Christian believe in. Ever since having those encounters, I questioned everything that I was taught and ever read, even though I didn't know what we were looking at, apart from calling them werewolves. We are not supposed to believe in them or any other cryptid, but after seeing them, my entire view of everything changed. My family has shunned it out of our lives, and knew that if they continued questioning that day, they would also become weak-minded. It took bravery to write in and open up because my family are strict Muslim, and if they ever found out that my religious views are weak and questioned, then they would never talk to me again." Wow, so our second worldwide subscriber submission brought us all over. We went from Africa to Mexico, back to Africa, to the Philippines, and then to the Middle East. Holy crap. Anyway, guys, practice kindness. May the Great Spirit watch over us, and may He guide us down that path that we call life. Until a little bit later tonight, my friends. Until a little bit later tonight.